If you clicked on the thumbnail just to figure out what the hell kind of car this is, I'm not going to keep you waiting. It's a 1977 Lotus Esprit. But here in a second, we're going to show some video of us going to pick it up, and then I will do a little bit of a breakdown of what will be happening for the future of this project. It's going to be a long one. What's up, everybody? My name is Mitchell. Right now we're sitting in a hotel somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Virginia. We've been on a 25-ish hour round trip drive to go check out this project car I'm interested in. It's been sitting for 7 or 8 years in a barn, unused, so I'm not really sure the state that it's in, but it's a very unusual car in an even more unusual spec, so I'm very excited to go on the road tomorrow and go check it out. Let's hit the road. We've got a job to do today. All right, got the car on the trailer, so here she is. A 1977 Lotus Esprit. They only made 700 something of these, and you can see it is rough. There is a lot of work that needs to be done to this thing, but it is pure, it starts, and the best part, take a look at this interior. It has the tartan. So I'm gonna make the long trek home. I'll pull it off the trailer and take some more videos, so be sure to stay tuned to see what this thing looks like off of this. I'm out here absolutely grinding to get home right now. I've been on the road for at least 13 hours today. I've still got, good God, 5.5 hours left tonight. It's now pouring down rain, pitch black. I'm driving through the mountains, and I'm towing a car behind me. So I guess if you see this video post online, that means I made it home. But I'm also kind of concerned about the Esprit, since it's just pouring down rain. I doubt this thing has ever seen rain the past 10 years, so there's a chance that a lot of those seals are not working properly, and I just really hope I'm not going to get home and see 2 inches of standing water in the car. That'd be a real bummer. But either way, I'm not going to be able to show the car really at all tonight because it's dark, and I'm going to get home at 2 a.m. at best. So tomorrow, once the sun comes up, I'm going to pull the car off the trailer, maybe put it next to my V8 Esprit, kind of do some comparisons between the two. But mainly we're going to check out what's good on this car. Obviously we know what's bad. I'm sure I'm going to find a lot more that's bad, but kind of just get a game plan for the rest of this project. I'm going to be posting videos of the whole process, so stay tuned. I will see you in the morning and we'll take a better look at it. All right, we've got the Esprit in the garage. My V8 has to take a spot outside for the time being. It was miserable weather today, so I didn't film taking it off the trailer or anything, but this space is going to be temporary just to kind of get this thing up and running and able to drive over to the other place we'll be working on it. But once I close this garage door, there's almost no light in here, so I gathered a bunch of stuff here, and we're going to illuminate this place real nice, and we'll get to work. Here is our nice little before. The unfortunate thing is I only have one outlet out here, so we're going to be running 2 more cords to that. Hopefully my garage doesn't burn down, but I have high hopes. Okay, we have light, we have a dry car, and we have heat, so let's get to it. This is the second year the Esprits were made, so this is the purest form. There's no bells and whistles, no add-ons for each generation and any of that stuff. It is just what the car was designed to be. We have a huge glass in the back here, and that houses a 2-liter 4-cylinder that puts out about 160 horsepower. Now that doesn't sound like anything crazy, but when you think that this car weighs less than 2,000 pounds, that's actually pretty peppy, especially in 1977. Cars in the United States were making 180 horsepower out of 7-liter big blocks, so the same amount of power out of a 2-liter 4-cylinder, I think that's not bad. Now, the car is in pretty poor condition. I don't know what happened here, but the spots where everything is worn through tend to be on lines where the body sticks up a little bit, so I'm thinking somebody might have tried to work on this paint a little bit and buff it out and maybe ate through, and then the sun faded it from there. But that is a pretty bad part of the car. Apart from that, it's okay. We have lights that don't work in the front, some lights that don't work in the back. I'm not an electrician, I hate working with electrics, but I should be able to figure that out. Down here I was looking at the tires, and they're dated 2020, so this car must have been running and driving it some point in the recent history. One thing that makes me also think that is the cleanliness of the motor. I mean, it's not anything crazy. It's not the cleanest motor I've ever seen, but there are new gaskets on there. Metal's not potted or anything like that. One of the really cool things about these, if I can get the camera down in there, is you notice that right there? That is a brake rotor, and it's a couple feet from the wheel. Yeah, this has inboard brakes. So to kind of help keep the weight in and low, that was a really cool system. Down underneath, look at that right there. That is some new suspension, and there is no rust or corrosion or anything. So I have pretty high hopes that this car was taken pretty well care of besides the paint and the interior. The owner said that it was off the chassis, like the body was lifted off to do a restoration 6 or 7 years ago, but I had no proof besides just his word. Usually you can't really trust that. The timing belt up here doesn't look too bad. I'm going to check the date code on that. That'll give me a little bit more of an idea of when this work was done and all that, but I tend to kind of believe him now that I'm looking at the car. It's not a blue belt, which I would eventually like to change. They're just the preferred belt to put on any of these Lotuses. They last a long time, and it's an exposed belt, which is kind of odd, so I'd prefer to have something that's a little bit tougher out there. One pretty wild thing about these cars is there is plywood everywhere. It's like an H-frame chassis, so it sticks out here, goes in really tight down the middle, and then sticks back out up at the front wheels. So it's basically just a giant H, and then the body sat on top of it, and this is all fiberglass. But back here, this whole area is all plywood. Down here, plywood. This stuff that sits up above here is kind of like a beauty thing to sit above the battery and stuff. That's plywood. If you look back behind here, behind this license plate cover, there's some plywood. There's tons of plywood on the interior, but I don't really see that as a bad thing. It's going to be really cheap when I need to replace those because they're all warped. Just go to the hardware store, buy a $20 sheet of plywood, and bam, what would have cost a few $100s on another car, it can be done really easy and cheap. Unfortunately, on my drive back, I had to back this car up onto the trailer. There's a giant lip at the front to kind of secure the wheel, and the front lip was never fitting over top of that. So when driving down the freeway, wind was kind of hitting the car this way, and I'm not super familiar with these cars. On the 4-cylinders and V8s, there's usually a water strip or weather stripping that goes around here. There's a little bit on the corners here, but I'm not sure if there's supposed to be another one, so let me know if you know otherwise. But water was just puking into this right here, and I had my spare headliner that the owner gave me, and then all my boxes of parts over there in here, so that is all soaked. I have the carpet out here to try to dry, but I'm gonna really need to figure that out. Coming around this way though, I didn't notice really much water in the interior. I mean, there's maybe, oh, that floor mat's not as good as I was hoping it was. There's a little bit of water up there, but that's probably not too big of a deal. All this is dry, and I'm not sure what's going on here, but there are like literally house speakers stuck up under the seats. If you look through out here, oh, that's cool. There's usually, like in the V8s, there's a speaker here, and then there'd be a speaker here, and then one on the dash. I don't see any speakers inside this car, so I'm wondering if under seat was the original intended spot for a speaker, but that's just an aftermarket one. I'm not sure about the radio either. That thing looks old, but it also lights up kind of LED-like. Unfortunately, with this cluster, all the gauges work, but I really couldn't figure out the lighting situation. The lights don't seem to come on here. But other than that, the interior is, in my opinion, this is the coolest interior that you can get like on any car. This is what I was searching for. Orange carpet with green, like suede, I guess, and then you have the plaid stripes throughout. I think these were supposed to be green. I don't know if this is just sun fading that made them look blue, but I think that's kind of a cool look. Now, I'm not too versed in interior, and given that this looks pretty good, it's really, really expensive to have somebody redo this interior. But what I'm hoping is that mine is in salvageable condition. This right here is supposed to be the original color, and over here it still has a little bit of the color, but it's very faded. I thought it was going to be brittle, but this is really actually pretty supple, and I don't really have any concerns about this ripping or wearing, minus maybe that right there. But if you know anything about interior, let me know. I'm wondering if I can dye this instead of having to reupholster the whole thing. I know that'd be a little bit more risky, but the only alternative is reupholstering it, and maybe if I dye it and it doesn't work, then I can just move on to that instead. Inside these is extremely cramped. My V8 I fit into pretty well. I'm a little over 6 foot, maybe 6'1", but in this car, look at my head. It's touching the ceiling, and then the pedal box is very, very tight. If I get my light over here, you can see my foot's all the way up against the edge, pressing the gas. I'm hitting the brake pedal as well. So you'll either have to wear really thin shoes or kind of tilt your foot to the side here. It's not made for big people. Colin Chapman wasn't big, so that's kind of how he made his cars as well. But I fit just well enough to be able to use it. Over here, the only issue with the interior, besides a little bit of pulling on both of the seats, the headliner not being in, is this rip right here. I really don't know what to do with that. It's really unfortunate. That might be the deciding factor of the interior. When you open this glove box, it doesn't stick like it should, but down in here is a array of fuses, and I'm pretty sure that these cars did not come with prong fuses. They came with like the little tube ones, and I'm kind of concerned that somebody was messing around with the electrics, because I really don't want to have to deal with that. Over here amongst these boxes of parts, I'm not sure where it is. There was another switch. There we go. There's a fuse box. I'm thinking this is the original one. I'm still waiting on my book to be able to really dive into it. But if this is original, this is what I want to put back into it. And I'm kind of afraid that whoever messed with this before might have been the culprit for this wiring not working. But we get a lot of extra goodies. I'm not sure why. There's a spare air box, spare like shifter surround. These air cleaners don't look like they'd fit on the carbs, so I'm not sure why they're here. The carbs are over here. There's an extra set of them. And they're dual carbs, so it's like kind of 4-carb system. Those air cleaners would not fit on here, but I'm assuming these aren't too expensive. I'm assuming the owner at one point just ended up replacing them rather than rebuilding them, but not a whole lot of extra stuff. But the crazy thing about these is parts for these cars are super cheap, like way more than you would ever think. A lot of part sharing was going on with these, so that's just the beauty of an old kind of parts bin car like this. Now there are things that aren't shared that are one-off, like trim like a pier, which I will need to be repurchasing, and this kind of trim, windshield trim, all that kind of stuff. Mainly cosmetics things, but it's really not too expensive either. Trim pieces like this I looked up online, I think that was 30 bucks. The gas cap, these aren't the proper ones, those were 30 something as well. Then if we come out here, the windshield surround was like 75. I mean, that's really not too bad for a car that they only made 700 something of. And that's one of the big things that led me to buy this car. Besides like the purity, the first year design, all that kind of stuff, there I think was like 760 or 780 made worldwide. I guarantee maybe a third or a fourth of that made it to the United States. And then of those, there's probably a pretty small number that had this tartan interior. If you have any information on that, just let me know, because I really would like to know how rare this thing is. And I fully intend to bring it back to its former self for a little while until I can find somebody to do the paint. I think this kind of actually looks cool as like kind of a rat roddy look, but that's not going to last. I'll probably put a handful of miles on like this just because I'm really excited to drive the car. So my plan to begin with is to kind of just look over this. I'm going to check the oil and see if the leak is coming from just a loose bolt over here. I think I've isolated the spot. If I run my hand up under this side of the cam cover and pull it back, yeah, there's the oil. It's leaking on, like this is directly over the exhaust manifold, so that's kind of unfortunate. So I don't want that to be leaking while I'm driving it at all. There's another piece of plywood right there, but this is pretty crazy access compared to the V8. The V8s are so cramped. So I'm gonna get a 10 millimeter, tighten that down, and we'll hope that that does the job there. I'm not gonna get a torque wrench out or anything. I just wanna make sure that they're not like super loose. That one's pretty tight. That one's okay. I also notice a little bit of wetness around here. Yeah, look at that. Down around here. Looks a little shiny, doesn't it? So maybe it's coming from this top cam cover. Oh yeah, look at that. Maybe it's coming from this top cam cover and running down. Just like most old cars, there's not many bolts holding this valve cover on. There's 6 on each side, which doesn't really seem like a lot to me. The only thing I can think of is potentially this is over tightened, or this oil cap right here is not holding. This also has what I'm assuming is a smog pump down here or something. I mean, this literally looks like a blow-off valve down here, doesn't it? Like, got the diaphragm that pushes up and pushes the air out, but I'm assuming that's like a smog pump or something. Not sure if I'm gonna pull that off or not. If I want to try to keep everything original, I'll keep it, but it just it looks like overcomplication to me. But let's pull this cap off. That's not good. That's probably just from, that doesn't look like it's head gasket related. That's probably just moisture since this car's sat for so long. I guess it could be a PCV issue or something that's pushing oil out the top of this. Let's get our dipstick out and see what we're looking at. Now, I know almost nothing about these NA cars, so bear with me as I learn. And if I do something wrong and you know otherwise, please point it out to me, because I want this to be right. That doesn't look original. That looks like a plumbing piece right there. That's fun. Let's go over here and check the coolant. Oh, that's tight. There is coolant in there, and it looks pretty clean. No residue on top of this, so I would assume that the oil and coolant are staying separated as of right now. These cars really aren't known for head gasket issues. I did have to do a head gasket in my 93.5 SE, but that's because my timing belt snapped. With that car, bought it in a similar state, minus the paint was pretty good on that car, and as I got it home, I pulled it off the trailer, and as I was pulling it off the trailer, the timing belt snapped. So before I even got to experience anything with these Lotuses, I was doing a timing belt, and I think I was only 19 at the time. So I'm really surprised that went over well, but it's not that hard of a job. Everything's right here and easy to access. Let's get this cap back on. And we will find our dipstick. I'm sure it's sitting right in front of my face and I just can't see it. There it is. Oh boy, that's stuck in there. What a wild looking dipstick. It is solid. This is thick metal. I'm used to those flimsy ones you get in modern cars now. Where the hell is the hole for this? What a weird placement. Looking down there, it looks like the starter's brand new. That's what you gotta do. You gotta look through the side window to be able to fish it down in there. That looks pretty good. It is still amber, so I doubt there's been any miles put on this, and it is just below the minimum level. So that tells me I'm safe to kind of start it and move it around here and there. So what I've gained from my little search so far is that the underside and all the suspension and all the hard parts look pretty good. All these lines are looking nice. I need to do a little bit of electrical work, a lot of cleaning on the interior. Let me know what you guys think about the dyeing of the interior, and then I just really need to start stripping outside parts off of this and sanding, because this paint, yeah, unfortunately it just needs to go. So that's probably all I'm going to film today. I'm going to start looking into some more of this stuff, but none of that's really going to be exciting. It's going to be me sitting there with a multimeter and using a vacuum to clean out certain things. But if you are interested, follow along, because I'm going to be making a video about every single bit of the process of this car. My V8 sitting outside, I also have some more work to do, mainly just a bad parasitic draw. I think it's coming from the alarm system, so that'll be fun. I've got an old Alpha out there I'm working on as well as a S4 that I'm pulling the motor on soon. I've got a 3000 GT VR4 that we're putting a motor and transmission in soon as well. And then I've got 2 Land Rovers that we're going to be making some videos about. So a lot of content coming. So please like and subscribe and kind of follow along. Bye.